Hiya, family. My name is Donna. Some of you may know me as the lady who says, young man. Tonight we're going to go into part 6 of The Science and Fine Art of Fasting by Herbert M Shelton. It's about repair of organs and tissues during a fast. So just give me a minute. I'm going to share this into our small group, and just give me a minute. Thank you, family. Yahuwah, my love. 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 Okay, I'm back, family. Again, this is part 6 of The Science and Fine Art of Fasting by Herbert M Shelton. And here we go. We've already learned so much, and I'm really getting anxious because we're going to get into really good stuff, I think, now. Okay, hold on. Okay, here we go. Shalom, family. Repair of organs and tissue during fasting. From what has gone before about the body's reserves, its ability to utilize these reserves, and its less important tissues, its ability to shift its materials from one part of the body to another, it should not surprise the intelligent reader to learn that tissues and organs are repaired during a fast, even that they are often repaired more rapidly than while eating the accustomed amount of quote-unquote good nourishing food. Let's see if this might be better. Hold on. I think this might be better, guys. The body has a vast store of reserve foods which are designed for use in emergencies and which may be utilized under such conditions with greater ease and with less tax upon the body than food secured through the laborious process of digestion. For it is less expensive to the organism to supply the requisite sustenance from its nutritive reserve than to do it by the digestive machinery from raw material. These reserves are available for use in repairing tissue. Oh, also, another thing, family, you'll notice that when you fast, you don't really sleep as much. You don't require much sleep. I think I was getting like 4 and 5 hours of sleep, and I was your body's not constantly digesting, so you have a lot of energy. It's amazing. Just want to share that. Okay. Repair not only takes place during a fast, but it often occurs more rapidly during a fast than when one is eating. Indeed, I have seen wounds and old sores that have long refused to heal completely and rapidly heal during a fast. I witnessed an operation on a child that had been fasting. The surgeon that performed the operation was puzzled by the unusual rapidity with which the wound healed and remarked to me that he could not explain it. It was no new phenomenon to me, and I think that the explanation is very simple. I am sure that the blood cleansing and tissue rejuvenating work for the fast improves the qualities of the blood and tissues. Cases of repair of wounds, broken bones, and healing of open sores during a fast are too numerous for us to doubt, for one instant, that even during a fast there is still constructive work going on. Aaron reports that the brain and the bones actually grow during a fast. Dr. Oswald reported a case of a young dog which fell from a high barn loft onto the pavement below and broke 2 legs and 3 ribs and apparently injured its lungs. It refused all food except water for 20 days, at the end of which time it took some milk. Not until the 26th day would it take meat. The bones knit, the lungs healed, and the dog was able to run and bark as lustily as before. Cases of knitting of bones in the absence of food are very common in the animal kingdom, and numerous cases are on record as occurring in man. This shows unmistakably that the body utilizes the less important tissues to support the most essential ones. I saw in Oh, that's wonderful, Amanda. That's amazing. Good for you. I saw in human bodies, says Dr. Dewey, a vast reserve of pre-digested food with the brain in possession of power so to absorb as to maintain structural integrity in the absence of food or power to digest it. This eliminated the brain entirely as an organ that needs to be fed from light diet kitchens in time of acute sickness. Only in this self-feeding power of the brain is found the explanation of its functional clearness where bodies have become skeletons. Aaron found that the bones and brain will grow during a fast. My observations show that the hair growth is slow during a fast and that the beard is much softer than at other times. The body sacrifices the hair in the interest of the more important structures, although fasting frequently stops the falling out of hair. Alopecia? Pashutin records that in cases of hibernating animals, the growth of granulation tissues in wounds goes on during the deepest slumber, even when all function seem almost to have ceased, and the heart may beat as slow as 1 beat in 5 to 8 minutes. The blood circulation being too slow, that cuts made in the flesh bleed very slightly. Fasting planarians live upon themselves, growing smaller. Meanwhile, this is to say, they draw upon their tissues and convert these little by little into food to meet their needs. The higher animals, birds, dogs, men, can do this to a more limited extent, calling first, as before pointed out, upon this reserve stores of fat and glycogen, and lastly upon the actual living substance of glands and muscles, and to a less extent upon connective tissues. In these higher life forms, certain parts are so essential to life that they can not or must not be liquidated. The heart is a little affected, even in starvation. The brain cells are not damaged. The bones are not liquidated or hurt. It is only in the starvation period that the muscles waste enough that they are unable to move the parts, and the glands waste until they are no longer able to produce their secretions, and death results. If a small oblong piece be cut from the body of a planarian, the piece will throw out an army of new and active cells on both its new frontiers, and these dividing, growing and differentiating at the expense of the rest. For the piece has no mouth and cannot eat, form themselves into a head and a tail end. At the beginning of the new parts are too small for the body, but a remodeling process goes on both in the new parts and in the original fragment. They grow, it shrinks. They both alter their shapes until finally what was at first a helpless fragment is a well-proportioned little flat worm. The building of the new structures and redistribution of nutritive matter seen in the forging case of regeneration is common to a greater or lesser degree to all forms of animal life during a fast. We have, in the case of the fragment of planarian becoming a new worm, the complete construction of a new organism out of food stored in the fragment without receiving fresh supplies from without. A starfish may grow new tube feet, new arms, or even a new stomach if it loses its old one. This animal feeds by holding open the hinge valves of a clam. Shalom, family. Of a clam or oyster, averting its stomach and performing the preliminary digestion within the shell of its victim. It sometimes has its stomach pinched off in the process and is forced to fast while growing a new one. The sea cucumber frequently dispenses with its digestive apparatus by castrating it out when forced to exist in stale water. If it fasts while growing another digestive apparatus. During the fasting period, the water may improve, and as biologists tell us, the trick of discarding its digestive system may save its life. The remarkable changes which insects undergo in their metamorphosis from one form into another are accomplished while fasting. In some states, even where there is no change of form, the softness of their cutting organs prevents feeding. This is seen in the case of caterpillars, where considerable changes are evolved. The period fasting is prolonged, leading to the existence of a third state, the pupa stage, intermediate between the other two. During these periods of great organizational changes, when old structures are torn down and new structures built up so that the resulting form is wholly different from and much more complex than the preceding form, no food is consumed. The food reserves stored in the body of the metamorphosing insect and the material contained in the discarded structures are employed as materials out of which to build the new structures. The growth of whole new organs and new digestive systems, the building up of new forms of life in metamorphosing insects, and the construction of the new organisms from the stores in a fragment of a worm, all while fasting, are remarkable examples of the internal resources of the living organism and its power to meet emergencies and to even use these for its own betterment. This is chapter 9. That was chapter 8. It was about the repair of organs and tissues during fasting. And chapter 9 here is about the influence of fasting on growth and regeneration. Sorry. This book does not want to cooperate. It never does. But it's worth it because it's a good book. I'm learning a lot. Oh, it would help if my phone isn't charging. Sorry, family. There we go. You know what? There we go. The influence of fasting on growth and regeneration. In a previous chapter, I have discussed the chemistry changes in the body during a fast and have there shown how the body distributes its reserves as need arises. At this point, I desire to approach the subject from a slightly different angle. A brief study of growth and regeneration during the fast will help us to see the remarkable power of the body to refine and use the materials it has on hand when deprived of food from without. Growth is determined by two groups of causes, namely the internal factor of growth impulse and the external factor of growth control. The nature of the growth force or impulse, which is the real cause of growth, is wholly unknown. It is deeply rooted in the constitution of the organism, and we say it is a predetermined hereditary impulse to grow to a certain maximum under the most favorable conditions. This growth impulse is latent in the germ plasm and may be considered identical with life. The factors that control growth are pretty well known. These are food, water, air, warmth, sunlight, or the absence of these. Internally, we find in the ductless glands a remarkable chemical mechanism for regulating growth. As before stated, the growth capacity, which varies greatly with various species, is determined by heredity. Experiment seems to show that the impulse cannot be increased or completely repressed, although it is subject to considerable limitation. The interruption of nutrition by food deficiency or insufficiency or by inanition interferes with growth, but neither of those wholly suspend it. Judged by the gross weight of the body, growth may seem to be at a standstill, or even seem to be sliding backwards. But this is very deceptive. A fasting organism that is losing weight and is consuming its reserves quite rapidly may still be growing. Professor Morgulis said the body is a mosaic of interrelated parts, each, however, having its own growth history. The growth curve of one portion of the organism may be ascending, while that of another has already reached the peak of its growth, or indeed is on the downward course. Furthermore, the growth impulse of one may be great and that of another feeble. At times of plenty, when there is enough nutriment to furnish building material for every part of the organism, the gross increase in weight is a good measure of the resulting growth, but it obscures the essential fact of the composite nature of the growth phenomenon. Oh, come on. There we go. Sorry, family. Walter's experiments with growing calves and Aaron's work on dogs illustrate this idea. These investigators discovered independently of each other that through chronic underfeeding, they could keep their animals at a constant body weight, but could not bring about complete standstill of the growing process. The part of the organism which at that phase of the development possesses the strongest growth impulse is potent potent to attract to itself whatever building material is available, and this not sufficing will even encroach upon the reserves of other tissues. We witness, therefore, cataplasia, or reduction of certain parts of an organism, along with a progressive building up or euplasia of others. Such condition has already been shown to exist in the salmon during the spawning season, when the animals take no food, sometimes for several months, and while all organs are used up, especially the muscles, in furnishing energy to the starving salmon, their gonads grow and develop luxuriantly. The young calves and dogs, whose diet was thoroughly adequate in quality but not enough in amount, continued to grow though retaining a constant weight, but the growth was limited only to the skeleton. This increased both in size and mass, and as a result of animals actually grew in stature, even the muscles were depleted of their stored material to satisfy the growth impulse of the skeleton. The process of robbing Peter to pay Paul, seen in these phenomena, shows to a remarkable extent the power possessed by the body to distribute its supplies according to need, and thus preserves the integrity of the whole. If the robbing of Peter is not carried too far, no harm comes from it, for the consumed stores are readily and quickly replenished as soon as food is added. Growth seems to be independent of food in the sense that food is not the case, but only the material of growth. Dr. Margulis finds in the phenomenon of regeneration a most remarkable exemplification of the fact that the growth impulse of a particular organ may be sufficiently pleasant to draw to itself nutriment and to infringe upon the reserves of the less active tissues and cause them to undergo cataplasia. Properly conducted, fasting actually promotes the growth. Thompson and Mendel found that a period of suppressed growth due to underfeeding is followed by increasing growth when the better food is given, and that the acceleration of growth following this suppression is ordinarily accompanied on less food than is consumed during a period of equal growth at normal rate from the same initial weight. Margulis says it has been repeatedly emphasized that just as soon as an animal, which through acute or any other form of inanition lost weight, is given a proper nourishment, it commences to grow at a spectacular rate, and in a comparatively brief period it regains all it had lost or even increases beyond the original level. The rapid gain in weight is a manifestation of vigorous process of growth. There is not merely an accumulation of reserve substance, but a true growth in the sense of defined previously. There is a prolific cell multiplication, great expansion of the cells, and a reaccumulation of reserves in the form of intracellular and intercellular deposits of products of their metabolism. Nitrogen is retained with an avidity characteristic of the young growth organism. Frequently, in a short span of time, an increase of the body mass is accomplished, which requires years of normal growth to bring about. The inanition has produced a rejuvenation of the organism. In the study of histological phenomena accompanying inanition, it has already been learned that except in the advanced stages in the starvation period, there is scarcely any evidence of tissue degeneration. On the contrary, the cells remain intact, though they lose a large proportion of their substance. In In the keen competition which reigns in the organism subjected to inanition, the weaker and less essential parts of the cellular organism are sacrificed first, just as we have seen this to happen to the less essential parts of the entire organism. The more vital parts remain, and the vitality of the cells and their vigor is thereby improved. This seems to be the rationale of the invigorating and rejuvenating effects of inanition. Biologically speaking, though the organism acquires no new assets, it becomes stronger by ridding itself of liabilities. In the foregoing, it has been pointed out that the cell-nucleus ratio changes in such a manner as to increase the preponderance of the nucleus. Morphologically, therefore, the cells composing the entire organism assume a youthful condition. They resemble more the embryonic cell in this respect, and this may account for the expansive growth which they display under the proper nutritive regimen. Again, he says, further experiments performed with the salamander demonstrated that the growth impulse and not the quantity of food consumed plays the leading role. These experiments sustained in the idea, substantiated the idea that the growth which ensures after a preliminary inanition is not unlike embryonic growth in its intensity. It is well to bear in mind that the reduced size of the cell, or rather the altered cell nucleus ratio, is probably in some way responsible for the vigorous growth process, and the rejuvenescence of the organism is dependent upon this condition. Many years ago, Kagan observed that following 17s of complete inanition, rabbits gained 56% in weight on a diet which could just barely maintain a state of equilibrium in the normal condition. Regeneration is common to a greater or lesser degree to all plants and animals. If man loses a fingernail, he quickly grows another. But even more remarkable examples of regeneration are seen in many animals, some of them being able to grow a new head, a complete new limb, or an eye. In some worms, a mere fragment of the body is capable of becoming a complete new worm. Many examples of this have been presented in a prior volume. Professor Morgulis says, it is a remarkable fact that the starvating organism does not lose its regenerative power. An organism already much emaciated through prolonged inanition will draw upon its scanty reserves in the effort to renew a severed part of its body. The little flatworms, planaria, commonly found in stagnant waters, possess an extraordinary regenerative capacity. Morgan has shown that even in advanced stages of inanition, when the planarian has been reduced to a small fraction of its original size, the regenerative impulse is still sufficiently strong to reduce still further the much depleted tissue in rebuilding parts of the body which has been cut off. Of course, during inanition, the missing organ does not regenerate as rapidly or as fully as a well-fed animal. The important thing, however, is that intonation does not deprive the organism of its inherent regenerative impulse. Discussing the fact that fasting does not interfere with the regeneration and growth of a new tail in a salamander whose tail has been cut off, Margulis tells us that, although the tail grows slower while the animal is fasting than the tails of animals not fasting, when, after several weeks of starvation fasting, the salamander having, in the meantime, lost 1/4 their original weight, they were fed once more. The regeneration of the tail was immediately improved, and in the course of time attained or even exceeded in length the tails which were cut off. The Rhine salmon take no food from the time they enter the fresh water until their spawning season is over, a period varying from 8 to 15 months. The king salmon of the Pacific coast, the largest and finest of the salmons, present an even more remarkable case of growth while fasting. They make a long and extremely exhausting journey upstream without food. There is evidence to show that they cease to feed before they begin their migrations upstream. Salmon were waste quite rapidly during their migration due not only to their vigorous activities, but to the rapid growth of their gonads. It has been estimated by Patton that 5 per centimeter of the fat and 14% of the proteins of wasting muscles of male salmon go to build up their rapidly growing testicles, while 12% of the fat and 23% of the protein of the muscles of the female go to build up the rapidly growing ovaries. The rest of the fat and protein that disappear from the muscles are used up in maintenance work. Despite the rapid wasting of muscles in fasting salmon, Meischer maintains that not a fiber undergoes actual disintegration. Our interest in the phenomena at this place is to point out the remarkable manner in which the body regulates its internal economy and distributes its stored supplies to various parts of the body as need arises. This ability to analyze and redistribute and resynthesize the supplies on hand is our supreme guarantee that none of the vital tissues shall ever be damaged for lack of food, so long as the body's reserves hold out. The continuance of growth while fasting and the rapid acceleration of growth after the fast indicate very strongly that the body holds onto and uses to greater advantage those substances or qualities in food which are called vitamins and which are claimed to play such an important role in growth and regeneration of tissue. It may even be true that the body does not lose any of its stored supply of vitamins during the most prolonged fast. The complete lack of stored supply of vitamins during the most prolonged fast, the complete lack of evidence to show that it does lose vitamins is as suggestive as is the positive evidence that fasting does not only not stop growth, but actually accelerates it. Chapter 10. Sorry, family. Changes in the fundamental function while fasting. Professor Margulis says, laboratory as well as clinical experience corroborates the rejuvenating effects of intonation. If it is not too prolonged, it is distinctly It is distinctly beneficent and may be used in overcoming somnolence and lassitude, as well as in improving the fundamental organic functions, circulation, respiration, muscular strength, or the acuity of the senses. These improvements are typical of the improvement which occurs both in structure and function through the body when one fasts. The medical profession and the public have been slow to recognizing the benefits to be derived from judicious fasting. Even today, there are few doctors of any and all of the rival schools of quote-unquote healing who understand fasting and who are qualified to properly conduct the fast. Few quote-unquote natural therapists and almost no medical men are sufficiently acquainted with fasting to properly carry one through it. Practically all of them insist on supplementing the fast and aiding nature with their various stimulating and suppressive measures. Many of the evils attributed to fasting are due to these measures and are common in patients treated by such methods, but who have not fasted. The other evils of fasting are imaginary evils. Physiological rest. An important object secured by the fast is the rest of the organs of the body. The overstimulation of the physiological functions, which results from overeating, weakens and impairs them through overwork. Fasting reserves this and permits them to recuperate. During the rest thus afforded, these organs are enabled to repair their damaged structures and restore their fagging energies. A fast is to the organs of the body what a night of restful repose is to the tired laborer. Digestion and assimilation of food are attacks on the vital powers of the organism and increase the work of the stomach, liver, intestines, heart, lungs, kidneys, glands, etc. The more food eaten, the more work these already overworked organs are called upon to perform. How can increasing the work of these organs help the sick? If feeding does not prevent sickness, how many overfeeding restore health? The fasting as a period of physiological rest was emphasized by all the early hygienists, Jennings, Graham, Traw, etc. Thomas Low Nichols says, in fevers and all inflammatory diseases, fasting is a matter of the first importance. Important as a rule. Nature herself points out this remedy. When animals have any malady, they stop eating. Loss of appetite is a symptom of disease, and it points also to the mode of cure. Not only must the stomach have the rest, but all the organs of nutrition and the nerves which produce their action when we stop food in fevers and inflammations, we diminish the volumes of the blood and relieve the action of the heart. And by relieving the system of the labor of digestion and assimilation, this book is it's not like normal books. It's hard to read for some reason. I'm going to just start here, family. I'm sorry. When we stop, see if I could just get this sucker. Hold on, I got to try something else, family. Because this, yeah. When animals have any malady, they stop eating. Loss of appetite is a symptom of disease, and it points also to the mode of cure. Not only must the stomach have rest, but all the organs of nutrition and the nerves which produce their actions. When we stop food in fevers and inflammations, we diminish the volume of the blood and relieve the action of the heart. And by relieving the symptom of the labor of digestion and assimilating, we allow the nervous force to expend itself in recuperative action. A cold is a sort of fever, and there is no better remedy for a cold than abstinence from food. After pointing out that the loss of appetite seen in all acute diseases and common and chronic diseases is the voice of nature forbidding us to eat, and lamenting the fact that physicians and nurses disregard this voice of nature and force food down the throats of disgusted patients, Nichols says. Rest for the stomach, the liver, all the organs of nutritive system may be one thing needful. It is the only rest we will not permit. In certain states of disease, the more the organs of digestion are weakened and disordered, the best beginning of a cure may be a total abstinence from all kinds of food. There is no cure like it. If the stomach cannot digest, the best way is to give it rest. It is the one thing which it needs. The Diet Cure, 1881. Dewey referred to fasting as the rest cure and said that the rest is not to do any of the healing, and more than it heals the broken bone or the wound, it is only going to furnish the condition for a cure. Here he was speaking of physiological rest of fasting. Mr. Carrington also insists upon the necessity of physiological rest in disease, but he stresses particularly rest of the digestive system, even prescribed forcing measures that prevent rest of other symptoms of the physiological rest of the body. Both Tilden and Weger emphasize the fact that fasting is a period of physiological rest. Perhaps Walter stressed this fact more than anyone else. I think it necessary to emphasize the rest of fasting affords to the other organs of the body and not overstress the rest of the digestive system. Let us take the heart. It is no uncommon thing to have patients come to us whose hearts are pulsating 80 or more times a minute against increased resistance. This is to say, the heart is rapid and the blood pressure is increased. The heart is slowly wearing itself out by this work. I have seen many diseased hearts that were supposed to be incurable fully recover during an extended fast. I'm going to repeat that, family. This is 1934. I have seen many diseased hearts that were supposed to be incurable, quote unquote, fully recover during an extended fast. A few years ago, a business executive came to me for care. Repeatedly during the preceding 2 months, he had been refused life insurance because his heart was diseased. 1 month after a 40-day fast, he brought $10,000 of life insurance. The ductless glands, the respiratory system, the nervous system, in fact, the whole organism rests during a fast. The exception is the excretory system. This system does more work. at least through a large part of the fast, in freeing the body of its accumulated toxins. This inner rest, that is, this rest of the internal organs which fasting affords, is what is meant by physiological rest. Rest. Where is there a rest like fasting? People go away for a rest. They get a change of scenery, a change of food, a change of activity, but they fail to secure the rest they need. If they would but fast a few days, they would return to their old duties with renewed zest and increased energy. Nothing can give renewed power of digestion to a worn-out digestive system. Nothing affords such rest to overwrought nerves, to fatigued bowels, or to an overworked heart and glandular system as a fast physiological rest. Most vacationists go away and increase their physiological exercise and eat more of increased appetite and come back worse than before. Physiological rest, decreased physical activity, and long hours of recuperating sleep will do more for these people in a few days than months spent in the conventional manner. Your metabolism. Metabolism is lowered from 1/4 to 2/5 during the fast. This falls quite rapidly during the first part of the fast until the true physiological minimum for metabolism is reached. From this point on, until the return of hunger, metabolism is maintained at a fairly uniform level. If food is not consumed when hunger returns, there follows soon a rapid dropping of metabolism to new low, but pathological levels. During the first 15 days of Levinsen's fast, there was an appreciable decrease in the oxygen consumption and in carbon dioxide production. During the first 7 days of the fast, he consumed 352.6 liters of oxygen and produced 260.4 liters of carbon dioxide. During the second half of the first 15-day period, he consumed 303.2 liters of oxygen and produced 219.5 liters of carbon dioxide. During the first half of the second 15-day period, he consumed 272.3 liters of oxygen and produced 193.7 liters of carbon dioxide. During the last half of the second period, he consumed 270.3 liters of oxygen and produced 192.9 liters of carbon dioxide. In a general way, the change in the metabolism of protein, fats, etc. run fairly parallel with carbohydrate metabolism. Nitrogen metabolism in the fasting baby supplies a remarkable apparent exception to this. Nitrogen excretion tends to increase from day to day, rather than decrease. The small supply of glycogen possessed by the baby is rapidly oxidized, and it is compelled to draw upon its proteins for maintenance. It will be recalled that the growing infant utilizes its proteins primarily for the building up of tissues, and that it normally excretes less nitrogen than is consumed. Dr. Kunde quotes Dr. Carlson, who suggests that the higher metabolism after prolonged fast may due to temporary excess activity of such glands as the as the thyroid and the gonads that seem to have direct effects on the metabolic rate. It is well established that fasting induces a marked atrophy of these glands. The recuperation of these glands on the resumption of eating may carry them for a while beyond the level of activity normal for the age of the subject. This would, in all probability, lead to a higher metabolism. That this explanation is incorrect is evident from the following considerations. 1. Fasting does not cause atrophy of the glands. Atrophy takes place in starvation. 2. There is no reason to believe that atrophied glands will function excessively. They would be more likely to function deficiently. 3. The increased metabolic rate begins immediately upon the resumption of eating before the atrophied glands have had time to recuperate. John Arthur Glaze records in the American Journal of Psychology that one result of two weeks fast, which he observed, was a marked intensification of the sexual impulse after the fast was over, though it was largely inhibited during the fast. This certainly cannot be due to atrophy of the gonads. It indicates increased gonad efficiency corresponding to the increased acuteness of the come on, Donna, why can't I follow that? Of the senses of sight, taste, smell, hearing, and feeling. Sorry about that, family. We would not attribute better eyesight following a fast to optic atrophy or better hearing to auditory atrophy. One is constrained to ask, what is the level of glandular activity normal for the age of the subject? The level of activity presented in the old man and woman of today is a pathological level rather than a physiological or biologic norm. Kundal dwells at length on the increased metabolic rate, oxygen consumption following a fast, and suggests that this may be due to the cell membranes becoming more permeable to food before the fast. The doctor does not seem to understand the significance of toxin elimination by fasting. Lack of understanding of toxemia and its role in reducing physiological processes leads to much misinterpretation of phenomena. Kundal continues, but the fact that there is a tendency for the metabolic rate to return to its former level points to internal coordinating processes that are not permanently altered by fasting, but this may point to a speedy reproduction of the pre-fasting physiological condition by return of the former mode of living. Living cannot be left out of the formula. What is meant, for example, by a normal diet, new protoplasm built by a normal diet may not be of better quality than that lost during the fast. Respiration. This is one of the fundamental organic functions which Margulis states is improved by fasting. The remarkable effect of fasting upon the breathing of asthmatics can be really appreciated only by those who have watched it in many cases. Sorry, family. During the fast, the excretion of carbon dioxide decreases. During the first stage of the fast, the amount of carbon dioxide produced grows steadily less as the fast progresses, until the fasting level of metabolism is reached. This is due to decreased activity and lowered metabolism, and not to any lessening of the efficiency of the excretory function of the lungs. The breath is exceedingly foul, so much so at times that one can hardly remain in the same room with the patient. Elimination. Fasting is nature's own method of ridding the body of diseased tissues, excess nutriment, and accumulation of waste and toxins. Nothing else will increase elimination through every channel of excretion as fasting will. Nothing else affords the organs of elimination the same opportunity to catch up with the work they are behind on and thus bring their work up to date. At the start of the fast, there occurs a temporary increase in elimination over the amounts usually thrown out, after which there follows a very rapid drop to lower levels. The fasting body strikes a new balance of excretion, one which represents a closer approach to the true wastes of the daily activities of life. Much of the larger amount eliminated daily previous to the fast was due to the Much of the larger amounts eliminated daily previous to the fast was due to the daily intake of much more food than the body required. As soon as this surplus is excreted, elimination seeks a lower level. As the fast progresses, the blood and lymph makes up 25% to 35% of the body's weight. Blood only amounts to about 5% of the body weight, becomes purified. Pent-up excretions are expelled from the body, the nervous system, and the vital organs rest. As the nervous system secures relief, body and mind become rested, and the bodily irritations that have caused the mental irritations and the mental bad conduct cease. Indeed, the individual is made over. Ridding the cells and fluids of accumulated toxins account for most of the benefits derived from fasting. The benefits last until toxins reaccumulate in most cases. This takes place quite rapidly due to subsequent returns to a toxogenic mode of living. And this was 91 years ago, family. Imagine what he would say about our food now. One great source of toxins is decomposing food in the digestive tract. Fasting soon eliminates this completely. The alimentary canal become practically free of bacteria. Only a week of fasting is required to result in the complete disappearance of all germ from the stomach. The small intestines become sterile. The hibernating bear and other hibernating animals lose all their colon bacilli during hibernation. Typhoid cases that fast through their illness are free of typhoid bacilli at the end of the acute stage and are not dangerous as carriers. Organic house cleaning. The vital cells of the body must be nourished during the fast. These are nourished off the food reserves stored in the body and off the less essential tissues, off the salvable portions of the diseased and dead tissues. The body possesses power to refine and use the materials it has on hand during a fast of reasonable length. The popular belief that immediately upon the discontinuance of meals, the bloods and and solid structures of the body begin to break down and that organic destruction sets in, is unfounded as I'm going to read that over, family. I'm sorry. The popular belief that immediately upon the discontinuance of meals, the blood and solid structure of the body begin to break down and that organic destruction sets in is unfounded as is proved by the results obtained in many thousands of cases of fasting patients. The vital cells of the organs and glands of the body, Those cells doing the actual physical and chemical work of these organs do not begin to disintegrate until actual starvation sets in. We know that it is not until the total of the body's reserves has been consumed that death from starvation sets in, and it is only after these are consumed that nature will permit a single vital organ to be damaged. Under favorable conditions of rest and warmth, these reserve stores may hold out for weeks and even months. Oh, come on, Donna. Maybe that, okay, that's better. Duh. I'm sorry, family. Didn't read it for a couple of days. I'm trying to figure this book out again. How to get it to where it, yeah. The faster lives on the same thing when fasting as when eating. The difference begin that when eating, he replenishes his nutritive stores each day, which in fasting, oh, sorry. I'll do it this way. Sorry. Here we go. The faster lives on the same thing when fasting as when eating. The difference being that when eating, he replenishes his nutritive stores each day, while in fasting, he gradually consumes them. The faster lives on the portions of his body which represent stored food and not upon the vital or functioning tissues of his body. The vital cells are not injured unless the fast is prolonged beyond the point where all the body's nutritive reserves are consumed, and no fasting advocate believes in or practices such a thing. The fasting body begins to grow smaller, and in order to maintain, I'm sorry, family. The fasting body begins to grow smaller, and in order to maintain the integrity of its vital organs, it utilizes all the surplus material it has on hand. Growth, deposits, effusions, dropsical swellings, infiltrations, fat, etc. are absorbed and used to support these organs, with no digestive drudgery on hand. Nature employs the long-desired leisure for general house cleaning purposes. Accumulations of surplus tissues are overhauled and analyzed. The available fuse is thoroughly and permanently removed. Emaciation frees the body of excess inert materials in its tissues and proves thereby to be a great boon. One of the first things that nature does in an acute disease is to cast off a lot of her surplus weight. She dispenses with the unnecessary burden. The lowering of weight is a natural method of defense. It represents a reduction of the body's nutritive labors so that these may be fulfilled without exhausting the visceral organs. There is no known measure that is equal to fasting as a means of accelerating the process of elimination. When food is withheld only a short time elapses before the organs of elimination increase their work of throwing off accumulated waste products. Secretions begin a physiological house cleaning. Carrington and others insist that in fasting, accumulated waste and toxins are eliminated first. Until these are eliminated, none of the really valuable tissues of the body, valuable tissues of the body will be destroyed. This is to say, excess food materials in the body and diseased tissues are utilized first in the fast. Carrington indeed thinks that the whole physiology of the fast is contained in this principle. He says that weakness is due not to lack of food, but to the poisons of the disease. Emaciation is due not to the fact that too little food is supplied the system, but to the fact that the disease wastes the body by poisoning it. Actions in relation to poisons. The nervous system of the faster becomes relatively larger than at any other time, and its sensibilities become more acute. For this reason, the actions of the body in relation to drugs are more prompt and vigorous when fasting than when feeding. Because this is so, fasting usually compels one to discontinue one's drug habits. This will be discussed more fully in a later chapter. The faster should avoid drugs of all kinds. Well, I think that's it for tonight, family, for that part of the book. I'm sorry I kept fumbling. It's just longer than, it's just, yeah. It's, yeah. Also, I'm going to be coming online again in about like maybe 10 minutes to do, hopefully, finish up the Shepherd of Hermas. And also, I want to go live tomorrow. I'm going to probably go earlier in the day tomorrow, to continue this book. But I want to go live tomorrow. So tell me, what book do you want me to read? Daniel, Enoch? Where do you want me to go? I'm waiting for somebody gifted me the large print of the Hallelujah Scriptures, so that I can read that. So once I get that, we'll be going into Genesis. But in the meantime, Revelation, Enoch, the 12 patriarchs, where do you guys want me to read? And that's whatever I have the most of tomorrow, that's what I'll read. Oh, I love you, family. I hope everyone's having a Baruch evening. And thank you all for your kindness, and I love you guys. Shalom, family.